I'll do what I want. I'll smoke if I want to. I'll talk in a funny voice if I want to.
I left my fucking watch charger at work. Leaking or not?
Ugh.
I kind of saw that go everywhere as well.
Okay.
It's a very stern slap.
Get off, jungle is massive.
Yeah?
Yep, I'm doing it.
That we're going to be talking about video games and if they're too realistic, or has the element of imagination been lost. It's to basically cut that right down. Is video games used to be about one goal. You used to be able to save the princess or just get this high score. You got Mario, who like Super Mario. Everyone knows that Super Mario is trying to save a princess from a giant evil dragon turtle thing.
Yeah, that's right.
Now it's all about military forces trying to get usually a Middle Eastern terrorist or dictator from releasing nuclear missiles to start World War III, which is a very sort of grounded subject.
Well, what's worse, to prove yourself in the terrorist unit, you've got to kill a load of civilians.
Yeah, Call of Duty Modern Warfare 2, I think it was, and that was was it No Russian? Yeah, No Russian.
Yeah.
And you had to go through an airport. Everyone's done it before. This is all stuff you already know.
This conversation's two-pronged.
Yeah.
So you've got the narratives of the games now and the graphics.
Yeah.
And they don't necessarily go hand in hand, but generally speaking, they do, because if Mario was photorealistic, that would scare me more than the Call of Duty game, I think. So,
well, he's sort of nearly photorealistic now, if he was a short, tiny dwarf,
Yeah,
that's
with
how
no
it was.
skin texture.
Yeah, with no skin texture. But he's got nipples, according to Mario Odyssey now.
Oh, and he's not a plumber either. Do you know that?
What is he now?
Officially said he's he's just semi-retired. He's
Oh,
not
is
a
it?
plumber. That is not his profession anymore.
Oh. So what, he's just a bum? He just lives off the state then, does he?
No,
Because he's got to
think-
work. He can't have his full-time employment to be saving Princess Peach from her eternal mistakes.
Well, he can.
Well, how many times has Princess Peach got stolen? She needs like a rape alarm or something.
Yeah, but that's true. Yeah, but she has. It's Mario.
No
gets
one's
it,
fucking
and he's
calling,
like,
are they? No one's
"Oh."
coming to her rescue except for Mario.
But Mario picks up all those gold stars, gold coins. Imagine he's amassed billions in gold coins, and then you've got the
Yeah,
compound
he's a
interest on top of
millionaire.
that. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Compound interest. So he's not a
As-
plumber anymore.
No, and well, the thing is, I don't take Mario seriously anyway because his actual official name is Mario Mario.
Do
Now
you know
that
why he's called Mario?
I know why he's called Mario, and I'm going to astound you with some gaming knowledge. And wasn't he a janitor?
No,
He
owned
was
the
someone-
warehouse of Nintendo.
The warehouse, yeah. So they didn't know what to call him, so they were like, him.
Yeah.
And then bam. No, yeah, I knew it was like a janitor or something that was not related to the actual team itself.
That's right.
But yeah, we're going to be talking about various different games going through, not in any sort of order, and just how much they kind of blur the lines of reality and imagination, and how games before. We're going to approach a lot of horror games. We're going to things like Splatterhouse, Shadow of the Beast, things like that were not realistic, and you knew that.
Well, I
But
think there were
there's
games
current
out
games.
there. There was games there, say 20, 30 years ago, that were trying to be realistic in their narrative, but the graphics held them back. So, of course, then that changes the kind of perception of the game. And then as the graphics improved, the narrative married up with that. So if you did have a really serious game, that would end up looking photorealistic. It kind of made it completely different, because there's plenty of games going back 30 years that did have a realistic, well, they tried to make a realistic type of gameplay, realistic scene and setting. There's a difference between Mario in 1985 and something like Cabal, where you're playing as a lone soldier trying to shoot, all these enemy waves. Now, if Cabal had come out now, it would be a modern day first-person shooter. with, I think serious themes. So yeah, I think there's a little bit of technology holding it back as well. I would say.
Do you think so?
Yeah, Darth Vader's got my cable.
Darth Vader's got your cable.
Yeah, it's fine. I've pulled him off and kicked him to the ground now.
Well, that's a little bit harsh. But anyway, so the thing is, for instance, like we're going to approach games like Splathouse, which was a horror story. I'm not necessarily going for the Mega Drive version because it was out on the Amiga MAME, well, the arcade system, Splathouse 1. And I can't remember off the top of my head. But anyway, it came out for various systems, and it wasn't until Splathouse 2 that Mega Drive and Split Places got it. But you could tell that when you were going through, you were... can't remember his name, and I'm not going to research it up now. You were going into a haunted house, just typical horror film. You would get ambushed by something, and basically the girl would be taken. You were beaten up. I think it was... No, it wasn't. I can't remember his name. Beaten up and left for dead, and then the girl was taken, and then this mask comes along and be like, I can give you everything you need, I can help you get revenge. Gets the mask, and it's all very horror filmy, but it's all because it's in like 16-bit graphics and 8-bit. No, not so much 8-bit, because I'm pretty sure that was beyond that. But 16-bit graphics, there was definitely a line between seeing demons on screen and being like, oh, that's actually quite horrific, and then seeing demons now in the horror games now, and then thinking, actually, that's a little bit too close to home. Like Splathouse, when you got a baseball bat and you slapped them against the wall, that was quite entertaining. You felt like you were just chomping through some demons. I played through Splathouse recently and finished it, believe it or not. That's quite an achievement.
Cartoon, weren't they?
Yeah, it was like a cartoon. You could always push the amount of belief that you had in video games at arm's length. You could always stop it and be like, no, look, it is just a game. Whereas you have horror games now, especially things like Silent Hill, Dead Space, even Doom to a certain extent.
GTA. GTA is a massive one.
No, I mean for the horror aspect. For the demons and stuff.
Yeah.
It now becomes something that is really sort of too realistic that you can look at. Yeah, it's nightmares, because I think it's because you haven't. When you see a person in real life, you can tell the difference between a person and like a real person and someone in a computer generated person. There are differences. I know the graphics are fantastic, but you can tell what's CGI or not. Because we've never seen demons in real life and monsters in real life, there is no sort of comparison that you can pull from real life to prove that these ones are fake. So they are imprinting demons, video games. For instance, Dead Space. I've seen like on Dead Space and films, movies and stuff. You've got the thing where they mutate. I've never seen that in real life, and I've never seen footage of what happens in real life. So, for instance, for me, that's new to me, and that's quite shocking. So, I do believe that these lines are getting blurred now. I don't think they ever really got blurred before, because you could always tell the difference that when you looked at something, it didn't look realistic. It didn't look like something that would haunt your dreams. There are some games that did. I understand that, some people sort of, it really clicks with them. But for me, reality is blurring, not necessarily for the horror side, because we're going to approach other titles, like FPSs, as you brought up. There are some that are getting just too realistic.
Well, it's just like, you go back to horror. There was a lot of horror movies I watched as a kid. My sister was 10 years older than me, so she'd rent them out, and I'd be a little shit and pretend to go to bed and then go and watch them. The Freddy series, Halloween, big mistake. Because they never left my dream. Well, they did leave my dreams, but not for months. And I wouldn't have wanted to play horror games looking like they do now then.
Yeah. Because
they would have had the same effect, I think, as the horror movies did. Shocking. Shouldn't have watched any of them. I mean, I watched a lot of Arnie films as well. There's a lot of ultra violence there.
Yeah. Ultra violence was definitely a thing of the 80s, though.
It's like RoboCop, right? So you got something like RoboCop that was really quiet, and it was ultra violent, and there's a lot of gore. They tried to make it as realistic as they could, apart from the arm scene at the end.
Yeah.
And I think it would have been a little bit damaging for me to play something like that. It will. What do they say? It's the same as what's happening to young, particularly young men in pornography, where it's the access is so easy now. What's the bloody word? What's it called? When you when you watch something or you absorb something so much, it has lesser and lesser impact on you.
You get like an immunity to it, don't you?
Desensitization. So it's desensitizing these men, pornography.
Right.
And in the same way, you could say that now this, computer graphics, soon they'll reach an apex, give it another 5-10 years where you won't know the difference. And that could desensitize people completely because, you look at like, they've blamed certain games for mass shootings and going back quite a few years. But those graphics, you could tell they weren't anywhere near realistic. But nowadays, there can be a complete desensitization to it. I mean, we've been playing a lot of Far Cry 5, haven't we?
Yeah.
The graphics are really good in that. And the themes are very adult and very mature. And just like GTA.
They're horrifying. Like, frankly, Far Cry 5, if you haven't played it already, if you've got a weak stomach, some of it is quite over the top. I'm not going to go into detail, but some of it is quite...
Yeah, I mean, it's quite...
really
I'd say it's
real.
It's atypical, isn't it? It's very in terms of the story, but the themes are very mature. And then...
Yeah.
Oh, God, I wouldn't let my kid play that if I had a kid. No way. And it's not just because of the graphics or the violence. It's those themes a kid should not have to witness. It's not entertaining at all.
If you have, as I say, if you haven't played Far Cry 5, it's pretty much the same sort of similar vein of the Westboro Baptist Church is like a cult, but they've kind of really hammed it up and, what's the word I'm looking for? Like exaggerated it. Yeah. There's a whole area of the world. Yeah, it's gone to an extreme. And there's a cult leader, and there's all his followers, and he thinks that he's doing God's work when it's
based in a county in a fictional. I don't know if it's in a fictional state. Montana, I think, is. It's based in a county there.
It's called Hope County.
Hope County, yeah. So,
and they do some pretty nasty things. There's a lot of torture methods and things in it. But there's, as I say, like if I had a child, there's no way they would even spot any of that.
I mean, even Far Cry 2. Thinking about this, I was thinking about Far Cry 2, and that is quite a depressing game to play.
Well, it's depressing when you have to keep finding malaria medication.
Yeah, but the whole like African conflict, which is prevalent anyway, and you've got all these people, and you're trying to find this mercenary, and it's just, yeah. Some games I play, as I've got older, I play a lot more games that I like to escape into, and those games are normally stylized or something Nintendo's brought out because it has no basis in reality and it's real escapism. And I have to be in the right mood a lot of the time, or playing like with you in terms of Far Cry to play other games. And it's not because I can't differentiate as an adult, but it's like, well, why would you watch the news and all the horrifying stuff that happens, and then, shall I play a game that's kind of similar to what's going on in the news? No.
There's so much hate and horror in the world already. Why would you want to go and entertain yourself by playing some more? It is a tough subject. It is something that's really...
Well, you look at VR as well,
Well, VR, I think, is going to be a problem. I think it's going to be a problem because if you imagine playing Far Cry in VR, I know it's just a first-person shooter, but, if you had the ability to not just use the stick to walk around, but if you're walking through, one of their counties, their areas, and you're looking around and you're seeing someone tortured, and you can physically go... and kind of look around at it. That kind of breaks another wall. It's if you are present in that. I always got a lot of respect for police detectives.
Fourth wall, isn't it?
Well, yeah, I got a lot of feelings for police detectives where they have to see these horrific scenes in person, and that affects you. That affects you mentally. If you have to sit there and walk into a hotel room and there is a corpse, if you then bring that experience to VR. So you can actually put the VR goggles in, you can see what your brain is kind of being fooled to thinking is a real person, mutilated and maimed. Yeah, I think there's going to be nothing but bad things from that. I think it's just something there is a wall that shouldn't be broken, and I think VR is great, VR is cool, it's a very nice tool, and some things are really fun in it. I will admit that. But there is an element of realism where you're like, they should kind of leave that alone.
Well, because we're talking about games in general, right? So, are games becoming too realistic? That's the main theme. Should we steer away from it? But, going back to VR and graphics engines in general, you could potentially use VR to help doctors learn how to do certain procedures, or, when they're more advanced, a decade or so. So there are some applications, but in terms of fictional media, it kind of goes back to like Star Trek, where you had the holodeck and it would create a completely realistic world around you. And it wasn't just the realism of the world, but it was the interactions with the NPCs within like this construct. And then it gets to the point where you think, okay, so instead of reading a book, you become the character of the book.
Yeah.
You've got this narrative driven adventure. And I think, you know, the realism in games right now, I think what the governments need to really look at is changing or really scrutinizing games and giving appropriate ratings for them. And I think sometimes they miss a trick.
Yeah.
And I think now games have become, because now games, especially now they've been around for, you know, 4 decades, pushing 5, they've become a valid art form. So people are taking them a lot more seriously now. And I think that because of that, the realism is needed. Because you might get games that are out there to open your eyes or give you a wake-up call. You know, there's politically themed games, and you look at, have you played Papers, Please?
I have played Papers, Please.
Right.
Yeah,
So
that's really cool.
The graphics aren't, you know,
It's
very
quite
advanced.
harrowing.
Yeah, it's about, you know, someone at
Because
customs.
you're questioning your moral choices, aren't you?
Yeah, exactly. So I think it's not just the graphics, it's not just the content, it's about what people want to do with it and what sell.
Yeah.
And you could say the same about any form of media, but the difference with games is it's an interactive form. You take the role of the protagonist, you get to make choices. And when it comes down to realism, I think that really can desensitize you. So I don't know. I think there's a lot of games out there with adult themes, but because the graphical content, or well, it's a bit like films. There's a lot of films and books out there that aren't necessarily gory, but they may have, like, I don't know. There's a lot of adult themed media, and because it hasn't got certain elements in there to give it an age rating above what it is, it still doesn't mean it's appropriate for kids.
Yeah.
And I think games have to be scrutinized a lot more than any other form because of the interactivity. So they maybe have to look at certain, you know, you could have a politically themed game about a dystopian society, but it may not have any violence, sex, or swearing in it. So it's a PG equivalent, a Peggy 6 or whatever it is.
You get Peggy 3,
Peggy
and then
3,
7.
and it's like, well, hang on a second. The content may not have those elements, but it still might be a little bit distressing.
Yeah.
You know, so yeah, I don't know. I think that games are evolving, and I think now when I play certain games, especially for me as I've got older, I've kind of tended to go back to the games I used to play as a kid. Not completely, but just games that have the kind of the elements.
Positive memories attached.
No, it's not even about that, actually. It's just about the escapism, because games back then were really basic compared to what they are now. It's just a form of escapism. You know, especially if I've had a day looking at the news or something bad's happened, or you just want to really escape from it, the reality of it. You don't want to go to a game like Call of Duty.
Yeah.
And even
more
strategy
pain
games. I mean, look at strategy games these days from the perspective of commanding a battlefield or something, like Company of Heroes, which I've talked about before. The way that it's not just it's the realism in physics, the realism in how the soldiers move when you command them. They don't just move, they like scrabble up out of a pit and start running, and they might trip as they're getting to their position. Just all that sort of thing. Yeah, so I it's when, what worries me is when it gets to the point where we can't differentiate between, well, we know it's a game, but it doesn't look any different. It doesn't look any different it's photorealistic, essentially. Then it becomes a thing. Because even games, no matter how advanced they are now, you can still tell they're not quite there. And it's not just about the graphics, it's about the way people move or the way their facial features are. They're not quite there yet at emulating that.
You spoke earlier on, which I think is a very good way to kind of segue, sidestep to something. You were talking about, was it called Fake App or whatever?
Oh, deepfakes, yeah.
Deepfakes, which, if you haven't heard about it, it's, from what I gather, it's basically they can paste people's faces onto other people's faces in video and make it look like it's someone else.
Yeah, so they not only do they take the source video, and then they take the person they want to implant. Not only does it implant it, but then the facial features will emulate
Adapt.
the person that is actually on that video.
Yeah, so we've because I didn't really know anything about it. Like, I heard something in the news about being taken down or something, and I was like, didn't really care. And it wasn't until you brought it up and was like, have you fucking seen this? And I was like, what the hell? And you'd think that, oh yeah, you can make video games more realistic you could have real world leaders, or you could have real like actual people bringing a sort of a photorealistic view and sample rate of their face as they're giving you instructions or cutscenes or anything like that. It really will blur the line between reality and,
but then you could have school
virtual
kids.
reality. But then, as you say, the other bit is obviously loads of really creepy people have then started making pornography with it and putting famous people's faces on pornography, which is the wrong use of it. But the video that you showed me earlier on, he had George Bush's face.
Yeah.
He goes, this was his actual source material. Then it had him at the top, and he was kind of sitting there, like, moving. And then after this app was doing it in real time, it had George Bush, his face on the right, but he was moving and looking realistic as the guy at the top was moving and talking. So it made it look like that George Bush was talking. And if you get an impressionist or something that can do that, you could then make fake videos coming from fake people intending to be the real person.
Oh yeah, exactly.
You can have world leaders. You can have Theresa May or anything saying that, the police are being shut down. We're shutting down all police. It's now martial law. I'm not saying it for argument's sake, like just for an example. And it would look believable, and the news would go crazy for it, when actually all it was just a lot of pictures of Theresa May and some dude at home just going, I'm going to have some fun. It's now, your identity is now not your own. You can't even hide from that.
No, it's when we get to the point where you can't differentiate it. It's open season.
Yeah, you can get anyone to say anything you wanted, to get leverage, to get anything, and that scares me. That's very worrying, because it's unlikely that it will happen to me or you, but it's the fact that it can.
But hang on a second, right? This is what I was going to segue onto. So people could then use this deep fake to start modding games to put their so-called friends or people they're getting bullied by in games where they shoot them repeatedly.
Yeah,
and then it will start to desensitize them, and there are a small fringe out there that would then go on maybe to do it because they have no empathy for that person anymore.
That's right.
You shoot them in a game, for example. Others, it might be just a release for them.
Yeah, but there's always a very, very small percentage that their line of reality is very blurred no matter what. And
yeah, exactly. So,
like recently, I read in a news story. It only stopped today. We will discuss whether we can keep this in, and I'll say whether to edit out or not. But it's that Casey Lawhorn. Did you read about that story?
Yeah, I read it.
Yeah. I don't know if we're going to keep this in. If we are, you'll hear that. But basically, all he did is he said it. He goes, oh, he's been feeling suicidal, and he just wanted to murder. Right, that. So his mate was staying round, and his mum was upstairs, and he just grabbed a stolen gun from upstairs that he'd stolen, because his mate was round because they were going to go to a Magic the Gathering tournament, right? And then he just grabbed the gun, shot his mate in the head. That was it. Went upstairs, tried to shoot his mum, and his gun jammed, and he just murdered his mother. Just how horrific is that? Went downstairs, took money and heroin from his mate, drove out in the woods, and then it took about 24 hours, and then his body was found. Apparently, there's not that reliable sources, but apparently his body was found with a self-inflicted gunshot wound. And that's it. And he put a Facebook status confessing everything that he did. And it's really chilling to read. But it's the way that he says it. He's not like panicking. He's not upset. He is desensitized. He said that he wanted to know what it would be like to murder someone. And he said that he didn't feel anything. Now, I don't know what that guy did in his spare time. I'm pretty sure he played some sort of video games. But just think if that feeling was then replicated again by someone else, you know, as that line going into reality, then it might start tricking some people that aren't as I don't want to say strong-willed. That's not what I mean. But some people that can't differentiate.
Yeah.
And they can't differentiate, and it becomes reality, and they don't care because they don't know whether it's a game or not. But that can have some real world consequences that are really nasty. And
well, there might be other people that think, oh, this game's so realistic, I can't really differentiate it, and when I shoot the person on screen, it doesn't make me feel anything. So maybe I can. That whole lack of empathy will, you know, transplant itself into the real world.
There's also other things that, you know, when you see something that's really horrifying and it really affects you. Like, I've seen, you know, I'm not proud to admit it, but I've seen videos of people, like, dying, right? Because, you know, you get tricked into them, and, like, you watch YouTube or something, and then it will happen, you're like, oh my God, what the hell?
Yeah.
Just what the hell? And that really affects you. If that's happening in a video game, you know, you kill someone in a game or something's quite realistic, you're, oh my God, that was, you know, that's unreal. Like, I can't deal with that anymore. And then you get desensitized, and then you, like, there are some people that will be like, they want to feel that feeling again. They want to go a little bit further. They'll be like, oh, I want to find something that's more disturbing than that. More disturbing than that.
Escalation, isn't it?
And then it escalates and escalates, and then eventually, does that go, I can't get anything from this anymore, I'm doing it in real life?
Well,
because that seems the only step, and that's scary too.
A study was done about these young men, I think it was like 18 to 24, that are watching all this pornography.
Yeah.
And the human brain is, say you see an attractive woman on the street, and your brain goes, she's attractive, and you become aroused. Not completely aroused, maybe completely aroused, depending on who you are.
Yeah, it's more mental. I know it's more mentally.
Right. So,
like,
what these men are doing
partner.
is, yeah, but they're snapping from one video to the next because you can, because it's broadband, it's instantaneous. Yeah. They're going hottie, 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 whatever they think, right? And it gets to the point where these men suffer, or they start suffering from erectile dysfunction, but it's completely psychological. Because they're watching all these women, and it's not just women having sex, it's the epitome of what they see as attractive. So top tier, and then when they try and get in a relationship, that woman is a real woman, not some fucking fantasy.
It's not about how the woman looks either, it's the fact that I think a lot of the appeal to some people for porn is the fact that they can watch it and not be watched back. Like,
there's that.
You know, then they will not be judged. They just don't get, you know, you're watching someone else. You're always watching someone else, and they don't know who you are.
Yeah.
So
you've got that element.
As soon as you're in a real relationship, and then that person can look at you, and all of a sudden sees all these different facial expressions you're pulling, and you think every sort of like weird face that they pull is something towards you, and not just the heat of the moment. And that will take it, you know, that takes its toll too.
Yes, you've got that aspect. You've got the aspect of they're seeing these multiple what they find really attractive women, and they're doing acts that a lot of women wouldn't want to do, you know, or men, depending on, you know, I think it's more men that suffer from this. So then they have a completely unrealistic vision of a woman. They basically want a woman that looks exactly how they want them to look in terms of perfection. They want them to do things sexually that a lot of women wouldn't do or wouldn't do often. Because it's just, you know, and they're looking at multiple women, so therefore they might not be able to be satisfied by one. So they could end up, you know, basically what I'm trying to say is because of this and the way they've got access to pornography, they then don't get aroused by the things that the general population would naturally.
Yeah.
And then they either go one or two ways. They could suffer from depression, or they could go and rape, for example, or that they would be in dysfunctional relationships because they'd expect things, or they wouldn't be able to get sexually aroused. So the question is then, what I'm trying to get to, it's not just an excuse to talk about porn, is the fact that, you know, could this transpose over to video games, and where these people are playing these really realistic games, you know, give it another 10 years or 5 years, games are basically photorealistic, and they're going from one depraved scene to another. because a lot of the most realistic games, generally speaking, are violent.
Yeah.
You know, in one way or another. I'm not saying that you play a terrorist or you play someone who's doing the torturing, but you're being exposed visually to all this stuff. And then what? You start to get bored of that. Could it lead to other things?
Well, it gets more and more extreme, doesn't it? You get porn sites, and then you get like porn sites that do slightly more extreme things that are not like, you know, dodgy, but you know, and I'm guessing it will just escalate and escalate, and that's when you get like all, I'm sorry about the use of the term, like scat porn or something like that, and it goes more and more and more, or like abuse. You know, it's because they've kind of had their enough of that level, and it's not doing anything for them anymore, so they go to the next level to try and feel something for it all again. And that can, like, as I'm saying, like, that's what you're trying to say, is bringing that into video games, that if just the normal run of the mill shooting some people, you know, getting the girl, or, you know, destroying the dictator, or, you know, destroying an organization, then they don't feel anything. They always want something more, so then they go for something that's slightly more weirder or slightly dodgy. Like, I've done a lot of research about this on weird video games, because that's the sort of person I do, that's the sort of thing I do in my spare time. And there are some really weird video games that are really disturbing. And I'm not talking about things like rape play, because that's disgusting. And that's absolutely disgusting. Yeah. And I'm not talking about like homebrew stuff. Like there's that Super Columbine Massacre that's done like Pokemon in the Columbine school shoot. I'm not talking about that sort of stuff. But what I mean is there's actual retail releases, real retail releases that are endorsed by things like Steam and, you know, PlayStation, or Sony, Microsoft. There's, well, especially now, Nintendo Switch, that are very weird. We're talking, like, on the Nintendo Switch, there's a game called Galgun. We've spoken about this before, I think, where you shoot girls' clothes off to try and get them to climax, because they're all going... It's very messed up, but that's something that you just... I don't know if it's just me, but I don't want to play that. That's not a game that I would want to play. I wouldn't sit there and be like, yeah, I'm just going to play a rail shooter.
No, I think it would be a lot worse, though, because it's obviously based on anime. It would be a lot worse if it was photorealistic.
And that's my point. If you start getting to realism, where you're getting all these women like falling at your feet trying to get with you or anything, and you're shooting a real gun to get rid of them, you know, that's
just
bad.
Starts completely blurring lines.
Steam's got one. Steam's got another game as well that came out not that long ago. I can't remember the name of it. If I remember, I'll put it in the... No, I won't put it in the description, actually, because it's disgusting. So, basically, you have, like, a virtual girlfriend, right? And it's all VR. So you have your hand things, and you choose what they wear, you choose what they do, and, you know, the trailer, which is on Steam and has been greenlit a long time ago and has now got a retail release. You get this VR girl walk in, and, you know, in the trailer, she's got some sort of maid costume on. Or something, and she's got to do homework, and you're just laying around. It's the girlfriend experience. It's you being in the same room. And then there's different things where she stands up on a chair because there's like a mouse or something around in her house or whatever. So she's standing on a chair, but because you're on VR, you know, you can sit there and look up a skirt or do whatever, and you've got hands. You're basically abusing this thing. You know, and then she'll lay on the bed because she's tired, and she's like, "Oh, come lay with me," but you've still got your hands, and you can poke, prod, remove clothing and things. Which, if you're in a loving relationship and that's kind of what you like in a private world, then fine, whatever. But to someone that's not in a loving relationship in this VR thing, do they have what's the word? Do they have consent?
Yeah, exactly.
From another person to do this sort of thing? You know, and will they think that, oh, well, that video game that's now photorealistic, let me do it. They won't think, oh, that wasn't a game. Oh, there's a girl there. Oh, I really enjoyed that experience that I had. I'll do it now. I'll just start undressing them in the, like, waiting for a bus or something. It gets nasty. It gets... Photorealism is... That is the next stage of gaming. Photorealism, it's entirely possible, but
I think it'll be one of the futures. I think a lot of the realistic games will be games that are set in and around the real world, or you've got the science fiction and fantasy. A lot of photorealistic games don't go for the weird and wonderful. So like I was talking about before, Mario would never be photorealistic. If they made that as realistic as they could, it would be really weird, disturbingly weird. So, I like games with a good narrative. I mean, one of the games I really enjoyed that's obviously near photorealistic in terms, Watch Dogs 2.
Yeah.
But that deals with some really
all troubling issues, isn't it? It's like sex trafficking.
Yeah, but it's happening now. These things are happening now. It's got slightly futuristic theme to it in terms of what you can do with hacking different things. But the actual political, social themes that are in there are all quite realistic. And like I say, it can happen with any media, but because it's interactive, it makes it all that more immersive. But I tend to, I do like a good game that's realistic. This is what I was going to say to you, actually. Do you have to be in the right frame of mind to play, these ultra realistic games? If you've had a shit day at work, for example, right?
Yeah.
You think, I just want to spend a few hours, playing something. Would you choose a game like that? Or would you go for something
I personally wouldn't.
Right, so what would you...
I'd want something that would make me feel like mentally better, either happier, or I don't mind being frustrated with a game, but I wouldn't want something that's notoriously violent. Like I would play something like Solitaire or Rocket League, or something that's just fun, like a puzzle game, or even something like GTA. I guess I'd play because I know personally that it's a game, but with photorealism in that picture as well, I don't think I would.
I mean, don't get me wrong. There's games like, I don't know, Forza. It's photorealistic. It's just a racing game. It doesn't have to be.
Sometimes you just want something like Micro Machines or.
No, I know, but I'm saying there are some games where they aren't non-violent, where you might get simulator games or sports games. FIFA, for example, would be a good example, where the application of photorealism doesn't necessarily marry up to sinister content or today's issues or violence.
Yeah. I don't know, I wouldn't... If photorealism was a thing, I wouldn't want to be, read something on the news and then go back and then potentially reenacting something there. I'd want something that's... I'd watch a Disney film or something. I'd watch, like, I don't know, an animated film that's...
Yeah, so what I'm saying is
the
way you feel, it would be replicated no matter what kind of media you were consuming.
Oh, of course, yeah.
Yeah, so, it's fine.
Well,
no,
like,
I can understand
when
that.
I get, angry, my go-to game is 2016 Doom. It's violent.
It's
cathartic.
Angry.
It is. It's fantastic that you can just sit there and go, right, I'm just going to beat the shit out of things. And you don't care. They're not of this world. They're demons. They deserve to die. Even though the actual theme of the game is the other way round. But it's something that just makes you feel powerful. It makes you feel good. And then by the end of it, I know that I can close that down, step away from my PC and walk away. It's the same thing as I said right at the start, that if you made the demons photorealistic, like the demons in Doom look great, but they're not photorealistic. Like they're not. So I can kind of keep that away.
Yeah.
But if you start looking at a demon, you can see like saliva dripping, like in between teeth, and especially like VR experiences like that game that I played round yours, that VR game with the zombies. Right?
Oh, the 360 rail shooter.
I hated it.
Bloodhaven.
I hated it. Now I like rail shooters or sort of. Basically, I'll let you into what it is. Basically, you are standing in one place and you have a 360-degree angle with two guns on the PlayStation, and you just have to shoot zombies before they get to you, and you have to destroy them before they get you. But playing games that have waves like Gears of War and the Call of Duty, even though that's kind of realistic, that doesn't bother me because it's a game. When it becomes I feel like these things are attacking my personal space and me. It made me feel really uncomfortable and really nasty that I was trying to shoot something and I could hear loud noises and there's
Yeah.
everything from behind me, and I looked around and there was just this face there going at me, and that it's funny. Like, it is funny for us, but we're quite sound, like mentally,
Reasonably,
right?
yeah.
Yeah. Well, you know. And that's not meant derogatory to anything.
No, but then it stops being a game, doesn't it? It was more of an experience to you.
Yeah, it's an experience, but there are some people that might make snap. You know, it will trigger something, self-defense mode. They'll just sit there and be like, "No, everything's gone. Right, you know, I need to self-preservation."
But it's like when I played Resident Evil 7.
That's a game I will not play in VR. Never.
That. Oh god, I played that in VR and Jesus, I shat my pants. And
I've only played the first half an hour of the game, not in VR, and I shit my pants.
Oh, in VR, mate, it's amazing. But you have to really be in the right frame of mind to play that, because I came out of that fucking thinking, oh god, it's just one of my friends played Alien Isolation. Now, obviously, Alien Isolation is based on the Alien films, but he said because the AI of the alien is realistic in terms of the way it hunts, like an animal, I suppose, like a predator, because obviously that alien isn't real. He said just emotionally and psychologically taxing. It just drains you completely, and he just doesn't play it anymore. It's not something he can escape to, because he's like, when he's playing it, he's always on edge, like he's hiding in a locker. And the alien's just creeping up, and it's like, well, you know, I think it's a time and place. But as these games become, you know, fucking hell, imagine playing that in VR. You just might as well wear a nappy. It's nappy time.
Disposable trousers. Yeah, that's enough. Yeah. Brown trousers.
So I think there is a time and place for these sort of games, but
some people really like being scared. Like
I do, but I'd have to be in the right frame of mind.
Yeah, bringing that, I don't know. What I'm going to do is I've got a really bad urge to yawn, so I'm just going to go over here.
I'm sorry, we're experiencing technical difficulties.
That has been killing me for about half an hour. I've been like trying to yawn with my mouth like grinding shut. Like
but you've got a twizzly chair. You could have done the whole, Mr. Bond.
And just turn around. No, I don't want to do that. I don't want to turn away. I just thought, no, I'm going to be brutally transparent and honest and just be like, look, I need to yawn.
My ass. What did he do? Off camera, didn't he?
Yeah, well, I told you I was going to do it.
No, you should do it right on camera.
Yeah, I'm not going to do that.
Just to show how fucking bored you are.
No, it's not boredom. It's not boredom.
Now he's got to start digging.
We've both had a stressful week. All right, we're not going to go into it, but we've had a stressful week, and yeah, you can say digging if you want, but no, I'm not taking that. I told you exactly. If I was just like, oh, I've dropped a pencil. I've just dropped my pen. Hold on 1 second.
That would have been great also.
And then come back and I'm all like, huh, extreme mind, like, yeah, found the pen. Yeah. Yeah, that's being a bit of a dick. But we're going back to this. I think it's a dangerous subject. However, on the flip side of that, as we do like to go, we do like to take both sides of the story. There is nothing like playing a game and having that immersiveness and the atmosphere to really make you feel like you're in that game. Like, some people use those games as escapes. I know when I played the first Dead Space, I had all the lights off, headphones, and honestly, I'm gonna be brutally honest. It scared the fucking shit out of me, right? But I loved it because I felt like I had to preserve that character on screen because that was me, and I loved it, and it was brilliant. But
I've got a good example here, right? Ready example is PUBG and Fortnite. They're essentially the same game, but the difference in the graphics, for me, changes the game. So the content's the same, really. But
it is the same game, like
but PUBG is like, wow, that really makes you feel like it kind of almost leaves a bad taste in my mouth to a point when I play it. Fortnite is like, well, it looks like World of Warcraft. You know, very simple textures. You know, graphic, very animated cartoon. popping colours. It's the same game. So it's kind of, they're both adult themed, aren't they?
Well, we've played PUBG a lot. I'm just gonna move this mic a little bit closer. We've played PUBG a lot, and we obviously have streamed it a lot beforehand on other accounts and things, and it was really fun. It's the element of realism in it. You know, you have real weapons, real world weapons, and you have bullet drop, and you have everything that you would expect for a realistic kind of simulation battle royale. And then I played Fortnite for an evening, and I gotta say, I liked it because I kind of like the whole battle royale thing. I'm not good at them, never have been good at them. I enjoyed it because it was a relief from PUBG, purely because PUBG is a high adrenaline game. No matter what you play PUBG, at some point, if you get past like 50 alive or 40 alive, your anus starts doing that. No matter what. You know, you're sitting there like, oh my god, is there someone there? Is there someone there? Oh, so you see a little dot and you're like, oh my god, there's someone there. And then someone will you'll hear a door. I've never been so paranoid of doors in my life. Ever. You hear like footsteps and a door go and you're like, was that you? Was that you, mate? Was that you? Was that you? Was that you? And you're like, yeah, it's me, mate. I'm behind you. You're like, oh, Jesus Christ. And then you play Fortnite and it's very casual and it's just, there is no adrenaline to it. You're like, oh, it's all colourful and it's all, oh, there's someone over there. I'm just going to fire some weapons and, oh, I run out of ammunition. Oh, I died. Oh, someone's doing an emote and they're dancing at me and you're like, oh, it's very jaunty and filled with children. Whereas PUBG is very adult and very realistic. You know, you will have people that will sit in bushes and they will wait for you and then they will snipe you and they are good. So playing Fortnite for an evening was a nice release. It was pretty fun. And I messaged you. I was just like, you know, this is not bad. This is not bad.
Yeah.
And you were like, what are you doing? And I was like, I just want to try it. But saying that, I've never gone back to it. I've never gone back to Fortnite because PUBG will always have that. You know, I've only recently gone onto the Nintendo games, Nintendo consoles. Like, I never owned an N64 until quite late. Like, because the N64 and the PlayStation came out, and I got a PlayStation first. You know, and it wasn't until later on that I got an N64. You know, way past. I think the PlayStation 2 was out and the Xbox. But I got an N64 cheap, and then the GameCube was way after. Now, this is the only time that I've got a Nintendo console, like, for its current releases. And I bought it because I kind of got bored of the realism. I kind of got bored of all these games that are ultra-realistic. You know, I wanted to experience the things like Zelda Breath of the Wild and Mario Odyssey and just Mario Kart and just the genuine fun titles that don't take themselves seriously. And I've got to say I'm having the time of my life right now. But I don't know if that's because I've played realistic games for so long that this feels fresh to me, or whether I'm just kind of going off it. Like, maybe the games are getting too realistic and I'm literally just going, no, it's becoming too much. You know, that's a sort of an internal conflict that I have to work out. You know, I'm more into like the 8-bit sort of games and the 16-bit sort of side scrollers, like Enter the Gungeon, and that one that you were playing, that Slain, looks amazing, that I want to play. And
okay, so what if they made that sort of game with that format photorealistic?
I don't know if it'll have the charm. I don't know if
Mortal Kombat tried to be. Mortal
Kombat was the only game that's made me feel physically sort of ill. And I love Mortal Kombat.
About the old Mortal Kombat. They went, you know, with the photorealism.
I know what you mean. The sort of low resolution.
You know, they tried that, and that's fine. But what I'm saying is, say you got a game like I don't know. Here's a classic, Bonanza Brothers.
Oh yeah.
Right, so you can see how stylized that is.
Yeah.
So let's transplant that into a real house with real people moving about or security guards.
Yeah.
And you're shooting them, or you're slitting their throats, or you're knocking them out. Side scroll. You got to get the loot, and you've got to get to the exit. That would change
like a 2D version of
completely. So the content's identical, a bit like Fortnite.
Yeah. And
PUBG. So so the content is identical, but it's completely realistic in terms of it.
I don't see the appeal of that. Because it's like a 2D Payday.
But I tell you what else, actually, back in the day that was like that, Another World and Flashback.
But they all have their own like art styles. Like Prince of Persia was like them.
Yeah, but what made them feel realistic was the way they naturally moved, because obviously they had set pieces. That made them feel a lot different from any other puzzle platformer.
Well, probably one of my first experiences of actually being horrified at a game was Prince of Persia 1 when my brother was playing it on the Atari ST.
Right, yeah.
And that's... You remember the old Prince of Persia side-scroller, right?
Yeah.
You know, you had the little thing, slicing doors?
Yeah.
If you went through that at the wrong time, you got cut in half. But it was because you fell realistically, and that kind of stuck with me. I've never forgotten things like that. You know, that's nasty. Like I would say I'm an aggressive person. Like I would say that I am quite, I wouldn't say violent, but you know, you wouldn't want to fuck with me. You know, when I'm angry, and I'm aggressive. I wouldn't say that video games have done that to me, though. I think that's people have done that to me.
Right. Okay. So that interesting. So before we go, a little segue. Do realistic video games bring that out of you more than other types of video games?
And I think it suppresses it.
Okay.
Genuinely, I think it suppresses it. There have been times, right? I'm not proud of it, where I've been so angry that I've wanted to destroy property or just something. I've just been so angry, not to the point where I would hurt a person. It's not like that, but you know, it'd be like controllers or something, or you know, you've had it with Call of Duty with controllers and keyboards. You get so angry with something, you just throw it. But I think sometimes playing games where you are physically destroying something or killing something can be beneficial. Like Doom, as I said before, you know, if something is really pissing me off, like when Far Cry was pissing me off, you know, you just kept dying, and I'm like, this is not funny. You know, you can go to a game like Doom and you can just be like, no, all of you that's in front of me, prepare to fucking die.
Well,
and then you go in. I was
going to say, because obviously it's
like,
people that make me angry like that.
Yeah.
It's the fact that, you know, playing against people and like what we were talking about before in the last video where they wind you up.
Yeah.
If it doesn't matter that it was Call of Duty, it could have been Splatoon.
Yeah.
And it would wind me up for the same reason. So...
Oh no, I'm just saying that because you with Call of Duty and your controller. That's
no. But what I'm saying,
it could be anything, any game.
It would be the way, the human element to that, and the way they were. So,
by the way, just to clarify, I don't mean people in real life. Like people don't do that, and then I get aggressive and want to kill them. I mean in game, like Ali was saying, multiplayer. You know, when someone sits there and they teabag you or something, and you're like, you wouldn't do that if you were right in front of me. I tell you, if we were in the same room, you wouldn't be giving me that shit. It's the frustration of that. That's the thing that winds me up. Because in real life, if they did do it to me, I'd headbutt them. It's plain and simple. Like, I'm not proud of it, but if someone disrespected me like that, because I'm a big fan of respect, you know.
Oh yeah, definitely.
If I respect someone and they respect me, perfect. If someone shows me respect, I will have nothing but respect back. As soon as they disrespect me, right, it's to the point where it's like, right, you are my target. And I can't deal with it. And that's the frustration, that when people hide behind things as if they can't be touched, it's like, how dare you? How dare you?
Yeah, so it wouldn't be the content. That's, you know.
No, but then I would move to a game like Doom,
right?
So I can get that frustration out, and then after I'd be like, do you know what? It's all right. But if I didn't have that vice to go to, or that, you know, place where I could vent my frustration, you know, it could build up in me. Like, I'm an aggressive person, but I think that's because I'm only aggressive until I've vented my frustration in things like this. Like now, I don't feel aggressive at all. I feel fine. Okay. That's because nothing has kind of triggered me. I'm sure you're the same. Like if someone like triggers you, you just want to. I don't like feeling like that. You know, I don't want to feel like that, but I feel games like Doom and things that enable me to physically kill things and stuff helps me. That doesn't mean I wouldn't go outside and do it. Of course I wouldn't.
Yeah.
But then someone else might.
Yeah.
Things are, like video games are always blamed for things. They're always like Grand Theft Auto has been in the news for murders and stuff so many times. They're like, on Mortal Kombat, like, oh no, these video games are the cause. No, because video games have age ratings, right? And usually they're like young children that are playing these games. You know, there was one of them, I can't remember the details of it, but it was like I'm sure it was like a 15-year-old kid or something, killed someone with a hammer, and then blamed Manhunt, right? And then they were like, no, video games are terrible. And the world just sat there and went, you see that 18 on the front of it? You know, and he's 15? You see that 18 on it? What's the mum doing? What's the dad doing, letting him have that? But no, that kind of goes out the window. I don't think age ratings will do anything. I don't think age ratings will matter as soon as photorealism come along. Because
I think they'll matter more.
Yeah, but I don't think they'll be followed because new technology people want. Like the amount of kids that come in. Like today at work, we had, no joke, 6-year-old, 7-year-old with his mum came in and asked for PlayerUnknown Battlegrounds.
Yeah, I don't agree with
the
that.
parents said, have you got they kind of said it's they didn't know, like PlayerUnknown. It's like, yeah, it's digital only and it's an 18.
Right, yeah.
Oh, they've seen things on YouTube about it, and I'm like, well, they shouldn't.
Jesus, right.
They shouldn't watch that. Like, YouTube do as much as they can to kind of filter that sort of content going to young eyes. But parents usually sit there and go, oh, you want to go on YouTube? Yeah, just use my phone. I've already verified my over 18. But things on YouTube now, there's like, you know, crashes and, you know, fights, knockout videos. There's death on there. And it doesn't get moderated. And you think you're just handing your device to a kid?
It's
They're
just
getting desensitized.
Yeah, it's all desensitization, isn't it? So,
but like, we get kids come in for Fortnite, and you're like, okay, it's a 12, you know, and Overwatch.
yeah.
You know, they're violent games, but for kids, sort of. You know, there's no.
No, but Overwatch, I can kind of. The thing is with Overwatch, it's like paintballing.
Yeah.
Right. So because the realism isn't there, Overwatch is my equivalent of Mario with guns. I can play Overwatch and it doesn't get me down in terms of because the content could be like any other deathmatch game.
Yeah.
It's just fun. The themes are nice. It's just a nice game to play. You know, it's a bit of escapism. So for me, it does affect me. And I'd much rather have my child playing something like Overwatch than PUBG.
Yeah, yeah. But a game, and like another one that when it first came out had a massive hype. That's Sniper Elite.
Yeah.
Do you remember Sniper Elite? Like,
I never played it.
Sniper Elite it's a good game. It's really good. It's the one where you shoot things and it goes into slow motion and an X-ray, and you can see where the bullet goes exactly in the body.
Yeah.
So, you know, you shoot them in the balls and you get like points for being in a testicle shot.
Didn't they do a zombie?
Yeah,
offshoot,
Zombie
yeah.
Army trilogy. Very good. There's kids that ask for that, and their parents are clueless. They're just completely clueless. And they come in and be like, yeah, I just want to get Sniper Elite. And like, the title kind of gives it away. Sniper. You know what snipers are, yeah? But they let the kids have it. And Grand Theft Auto, they let the kids have it. And you think, this is the reason why games are being blamed. You know, video games, the content that's in the video games it's all art. If you think of the stuff that we were talking about earlier on Steam, where you get like the virtual girlfriend experience, and there's one called House Party, where your whole point is to sleep with as many people at a house party, and they don't hide anything.
Yeah,
You know,
exactly.
You actually have to do these acts, and that's just freely available on Steam. You can just buy that. You know, and you don't need age verification either, because you can just say, "Oh yeah, I'm over 18. I didn't show any ID to prove I was over 18."
Yeah.
So,
you see.
and that's mental, and that's kind of the I wouldn't say I digressed, but it is relevant. But I think that bringing the photorealism aspect into that will benefit some people, but parents will still be clueless, and this photorealism will then be going to a younger audience, which is then teaching them that this violence is okay, and then they, you know, some kids are very impressionable. You know, you get some kids that will sit there and they'll be like, "Oh, I saw it on a game. Yeah, it doesn't matter," and then it looks exactly like real life now, and then they'll
Yeah,
just think they can do it at school, and all of a sudden, some kid's got a knife or a pencil stuck in their neck.
yeah, and
Do you
I
know what I
think
mean?
that's
I
oh,
just
that's
think
the
it's,
thing. It all comes down to people again.
and that's it. You'll never win. This is a subject that you'll never win. Like, technology needs to advance. Of course, it needs to advance. You know, the next stage is photorealism because we've got near as hell now. You know, it's not quite there, but
Oh,
that is
yeah.
the next stage. The VR experience, the actual bringing yourself there. You know, the haptic feedback gloves of, I can't remember who prototyped them recently. But anyway, you know, so you basically, if you're putting your hand on a wall, you would feel a wall.
Yeah,
Was it you that was telling me that?
yeah.
Yeah.
Like haptic gloves. Yeah,
Yeah, so basically, if you put your hand out and it's raining, it would do the thing as if it was raining. You're trying to bring that atmospheric experience. Of course, that's the next
even
thing.
Nintendo Switch has done it with the Joy-Cons, haven't they?
Yeah, that
Thing.
one with the ball bearings in 1-2
Yeah, that's
switch
right.
or whatever.
Yeah,
That's clever. That's very clever, but that's the next stage. But you'll always have people that will take that too far and will ruin it for the rest of them. I played Manhunt.
yeah.
I played Manhunt when I was about 14, I think, 15. Which I know is contradicting everything that I said. My mum didn't know that. My mum didn't know I had that game.
Right.
I borrowed it. I borrowed it off a mate who lent it to me at school. And if our parents knew about it, we would have got crucified for it.
Yeah.
You know? My mum and dad let me play games like that. You know, but there had to be a cut-off point. If it was an 18, my parents would be like, "Really? I don't think so."
Yeah.
If it was a 15 and I was like
Okay.
13, they'd be like, "Okay, you know, we'll see what it's like." But
Well,
parents aren't doing that, and bringing realism into that as well is just they're just still going to have the wool pulled over their eyes, aren't they?
I'd say so. I think, but it's stupid because parents these days, you know, have grown up with this media, whereas our parents never did.
Yeah.
And yet, a lot of the parents these days, from what I can tell, are making bad judgment calls on this. You know,
Yeah.
they've grown up with it. What, did it not affect them? Are they, you know,
Well, they go, "Look how
psychopaths?
I turned out."
The classic, the classic, one of the classic tests for a psychopath is lack of empathy.
Yeah.
And when things become realistic, then you'll be able to almost start empathizing with these characters, and it might leave a bad taste in your mouth. So what? They got no empathy, or they just think, oh, it's just a game, it's just a film, it's just a book. Oh, it's just the news.
Yeah.
You're watching it through a fucking screen. So what? They're going to turn around and say, well, you know, you get desensitized. We've got 24/7 news now, showing, you know, images of look, chemical attack in Syria. Oh, okay.
Disgusting.
It's just
But with
on-
everyone having phones, they can literally just grab
yeah,
it
yeah.
whenever they want. They could just go, "Oh, I'm just going to look up." Do you know what? I don't go on Reddit very often, but there's a subreddit which I'm not going to name that I found recently
Right.
that's disgusting. And basically, it's just loads of videos and links to people dying. Like CCTV or phone video footage of just people dying. And you think there's people that actually enjoy that.
Really?
Yeah. Honestly,
Wow.
it's disgusting. Like, I was like curious about it. I didn't watch anything, believe me, but I was curious about it. But you have thumbnails, right? And
Yeah.
as soon as I went through the first page on my phone and was like, "Do you know what? No way, can't do it." And it will be like the titles were like, you know, gang violence or something,
Yeah,
or
yeah.
gang member gets caught by opposing gang, beaten to death, whatever, with swords or some shit like that. Or you get a lot of terrorist videos where you get people that are like, they're getting executed, like execution videos.
Right. Yeah. Okay.
And they're just, you know what, you know, I went on there, didn't log in, right? I didn't need to log in. and I could just click on one of them and watch it. But no one asked me for my age. No one asked me on anything on my age. Reddit apparently is a safe zone, and you get these not safe for work threads, but you just turn that off. You don't have to log in.
Right,
you don't have to prove your age. So it goes to my point that kids, no wonder they want to play all these super violent games, when I'm not saying kids go on these Reddit pages, but because it's so readily available, they get desensitized so early. You know, and because it's so freely available and everyone's got a phone in their pocket, so if anything happens in the world, someone could be dying on the side of the road, and the first thing that will happen is they won't call an ambulance or go and help the person. They'll get their phone out to video it in case something happens. And that's nasty. Are you trying to look for that thread?
Yeah, I'm not. No, I was going to, and now I'm not going to bother.
I don't, especially not on camera, because it will affect you.
But okay, so the point is then, let's see. Do you think then, because you could say to yourself, well, they're seeing all this shit anyway. Does it matter? Games becoming photorealistic, does it really matter?
Well, I don't think that should be promoted.
No, well, what I'm afraid of is then you get real life simulators where you could actually, the game engine is creating all the internal organs, so you could simulate torturing someone. You could, cut someone's bowels open, for example, and it would emulate what would actually realistically happen. It wouldn't be too far-fetched.
That's a good point. That's kind of made me remember something which is nasty, that there is a VR game on Steam that you can get. Can't remember what it is, but basically you are in a VR simulation of you being in the Twin Towers as a plane is hitting.
Oh, God, I've seen that, yeah. You have to make a choice to jump out of the window.
Yeah, and you have to either jump out or try and escape, and you're like, why would you dedicate so much time making something like that? Because that's nasty.
Yeah, it really is.
That's seriously nasty. But yeah, you were saying, having a game that will emulate real experiences. How long is it going to be until you get like a murdering simulator? Where it's a simulator of murder and torture. And they say, oh no, so you don't do it in real life. Well, you shouldn't do it in real life anyway. Like, having a simulator for it. Like Japan, is it Japan? I might be wrong on there, that have got dolls that are based on children. Like child dolls.
Yeah.
To stop, like, they're made for paedophiles to have for their urges, so they don't go out and do it. Like, to real children.
Yeah. I don't get me wrong, I can understand the logic.
Yeah, I can understand the logic, but
it's still disturbing.
Yeah, it's just mental. It's just absolutely mental. But yeah, as a personal gamer, like, my personal opinion and your personal opinion, I'm really excited about photorealism. Right?
Yeah.
I think it's going to be fantastic. It's going to be immersive, but that's because I know I'm sound in the head. Right?
I think it'll be interesting. I actually think there'll be some games that I may steer clear from.
What do you mean?
Just because of, when it becomes completely photo, there's some movies that as I got older, I just don't enjoy watching them.
No.
If there's movies with ultra violence in, for the sake of it, I am not interested now. I don't enjoy it. 15 years ago, I would have loved it, but now I'm just like.
Now you kind of.
I just don't want
really
to be
like.
Yeah, I don't want to be seeing it.
Well, that's, as I said, when I moved to the Switch, and you find, games that are like supposed to be realistic. Supposed to be unrealistic, like Mario Kart and stuff. It's a fantastical world that you enjoy being around.
Yeah,
and you enjoy playing into. But yeah, having photorealism is going to be an awesome experience when it happens. For me and you personally.
But it's not just photorealism; it's the AI. Well, that's what I'm interested.
That kind of comes with it.
Because the strategy elements. Because they say about too realistic. It's not just about the realism of the graphics. You look at the AI, and you could have adventure games, and you could have like the Turing test. The Turing test where you type something. Well, it could get to the point where you could be talking within the game, whatever media, whether it's your keyboard or whatever, and the AI could be simulating remarks back to you, but they're not just preordained. It's actually stringing sentences together. That would be interesting. I'm a big fan also of physics in games.
Oh, definitely.
For me, that makes realism, breaking of walls, the way that the weather works, the simulation of fabric and hair and stuff like that makes a big difference.
One of my fondest experiences, this is God's honest truth. I used to sit there and go on the internet and download custom maps for Unreal Tournament 2003 just so I could use the ragdoll thing.
Yeah.
There used to be ones where you'd have like pits. And it had loads of bars and like objects coming out, and then you'd go through, but as soon as you hit a mark you'd instantly die, but you'd watch the ragdoll and you'd have mutators so you could go in slow motion and things like that. I found it fascinating, the physics on that. I found it fascinating, absolutely fascinating. So you got like moving in slow motion, just how it ran, and that was 2003. And the physics now it's incredible.
Oh, the water physics is amazing.
Yeah, but it's not just the bodies anymore.
No.
It's the environment is now ragged up. Like, I never played it, and I've wanted to for a long time. But Uncharted 4, there was
it's great.
I saw a video of it where he shot like it was like a hill, and he shot it, and it was making rubble, and then it was rolling.
Yeah,
like,
but it's the way that his gunsling, he has sort of the shoulder one moves as he moves.
Yeah,
and like the mud coming off the tires when he's driving around the Jeep.
It's just
excellent. But I mean, that game's very realistic. But because it's like Indiana Jones, there is violence in it, but it's not light-hearted. But it's the violence as a means to an end, not the main event.
Yeah.
Another good use of physics that was the Arkham series.
Yes,
they're one of the only series that seems to use physics now. Which technology that Nvidia bought, I think, if I'm not mistaken. But like his cape and the way that moves and the rain effects, just little things like that. So that makes a difference. It's all about creating that immersion. It's about getting the NPCs to walk realistically, to be natural. Even in Far Cry, they've done a good job of the ragdoll physics in that.
Yeah.
And I've done it where I've thrown a grenade and the person's been blown away but not dead, and that their rifle will fall out of their hands and they'll go and switch to the pistol.
Yeah, because they've lost the gun.
Yeah, that to me is a lot of immersion as well. It really is important compared to the graphics. And I like that. And I think there's other games out there. I used to love the Broken Sword. Adventure games. I think they'd be really good as a photorealistic VR immersive experience. Adventure games in general.
You've mentioned that to me, like point and click adventures, but in VR.
Well, we played Batman,
like
the Arkham
Monkey
VR.
Island. Oh, that.
That itself is an adventure game.
I found I was having more fun, like when when you're in the piano, and then Alfred was there, and I was just sitting there trying to throw batarangs. Was it Alfred or was it the?
Alfred comes up, yeah.
Yeah, and I was like trying to throw batarangs. Yeah, and I was just like grabbing the phone and like picking it up, like all right, and then trying to throw it at him. Loved it.
Yeah,
absolutely loved it, and that was the fun. But you're right, like having a VR experience. That's
immersive.
Yeah,
and I think realism as well, like we talked about before with VR, and to have a realistic vista where you can look around and people with disabilities that can't get out much. That's a really positive aspect of it becoming photorealistic. So it kind of links to that video that we had before. I think there are some positives. It all comes down to the people that are playing it and the content that's being communicated via the medium. It's never the medium. It's like the whole saying, guns don't kill people, people kill people. And it's like video games don't cause people to necessarily go mental or crazy or get angry, but the content in those video games, it's not the technology, it's the application of it. It's not the tool, it's the application of it.
Games don't kill people, people kill people.
Yeah,
same
exactly. Sort of thing. I agree. Yeah.
But no, I'm looking forward to photorealism. I am, but I would not want everything to go towards it. No, I don't like the idea of playing games with photorealism. I just don't. I like letting my imagination do the work. I don't want to just sit there and just watch it and be like, yeah, I am entertained by the realism of people dying. I want to go through tombs as, you know, a vampire that's, you know, and then lose myself in that world. And I don't want to bring those characters into my world. I want to be in that world. I want to escape reality by going into the game rather than blurring those lines to bring that game into my reality.
But I think
that's
an interesting
dangerous.
topic there, because you look at something like Lord of the Rings, right? Comes out in 2003. They've finally got the technology to bring these fantastical creatures to life, but it's photorealistic. It's a fancy world, but it's photorealistic.
Mm. Yeah, but it's not something you can control.
No. But what I'm saying is, if I played a fantastical game that was violent, that wouldn't have the same effect on me than playing something set in the modern day that is close to home.
Yeah. But that's because obviously reality now is not that. You know.
No. But okay, so if you had photorealistic Doom, and you had photorealistic Far Cry would affect me far more.
Yes, I agree.
Even though Doom is ultra violent.
No, that's the first point that I was bringing up. You know, I've not seen demons in real life, so I can't associate that with reality. But I've seen people in real life, so of course I can associate that to reality.
No, but they could still make a demon look real in terms of it could be, you know, photorealistic in terms of it could be some sort of human with features that you know.
But walking to work, I'm not going to walk
element.
past a demon. I'm going to walk past people. So that's kind of where my reality is.
You lose that relatability.
Yeah.
And I think that has a massive impact on for me. But at the same time, if I played a 16-bit version of Far Cry, it wouldn't have the same impact as a photorealistic.
No, definitely not. However, I think this is a good place to wrap up, because I think that we've discussed things as much as we kind of can without.
We've flogged it. Yeah, we've flogged it.
Yeah, like we'd love to hear what other people think about this, because I personally would like to know, like, if the listener or the watcher in this case, if you're really excited for photorealism and your reasons for it. I'd be really interested to hear that. You all know my opinions, and you all know Ali's opinions now. But yeah, leave us a comment on Twitter or something.
Hang on.
What?
I have my poignant quote to make.
I am not finished yet. Give me a bloody second. But yeah, talk to us on Twitter at ModdedGossip. You're more than welcome to comment. Ask us questions, have a laugh, do whatever you want.
Continue the topic. We want to know what you think.
We want to bring it up in later videos. Go to our YouTube channel, which you already should be on now, but if you could click on our names and press subscribe, let's get a big boy name. We need 100.
Ding dong.
Yeah, hit the ding dong.
Hit that bell. You'll find when a new video comes out, you'll be first.
That's right. Hit the ding dong. You'll get notified. I hope that we've been relatively entertaining on this. Bring up your points, because we want to interact. We might do a second part on this, or even just like a little short video answering some questions. But yeah, we really appreciate you watching this, and we hope you return for a later video. We're now at the point where Ali's got an inspirational quote that he's going to give to us all. Take it away.
I may disagree with what you have to say, but I will defend to death your right to say it. It's a good quote.
That is a bloody good quote. I do like that.
I thought it was very poignant. So
it is. It's very relevant to this as well.
Yeah.
But yeah. But anyway, thanks for watching. We've been Modded Gossip.
See you
later.
later.
Have a bloody good un. Bye.
Bye.